Welcome back to Kimberley. As I said earlier on, this is where the ANC celebrated its 108th year anniversary, which is marked by the delivery of the January 8 statement, which is where the party president addresses the crowds. And this year it was no different, as President Cyril Ramaphosa, in his capacity as the president of the ANC, delivered that January 8 statement. And of course, in today's statement, the president did outline the priorities of the party going forward. He spoke about the state of the ANC, he spoke about the economy, he touched on the issue of jobs, and of course, the elephant in the room, which is Eskom. But let me not waste any more time, and welcome President Cyril Ramaphosa, who joins us right now. President, welcome, and thank you for talking to Newzroom Africa.
Thank you very much. It's good to see you here, and I'm glad you were part of the celebrations.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, let's get down to it. You spent the whole week, it was a grueling week, walking up and down the streets of Kimberley. You went throughout other parts of the province. It must have taken its toll on you, and we saw that on Friday, actually. You had to cancel some of your engagements, and we understand that you had a bit of back pain, but today I saw you doing some brochure there. And then I wondered if you are okay, Mr. President. How has the week been for you?
The week has been a grueling week, but most uplifting and most encouraging for us, because it also gives us an opportunity to interface with our people. And I had the wonderful opportunity, and this is what I enjoy most, just going around door to door, mingling with our people. And in fact, I wish I stayed less at the union buildings, more on the ground, going to their homes, in their streets, meeting them in small meetings and rallies, and hearing their concerns. And in the main, you know, I was very pleased that many of them made suggestions about how we can improve their lives, the things that we need to focus on, and what we need to do for them. And some of those suggestions we are going to be taking up. And as we moved around, I mean, the people were not filled with anger or rancor, even as their conditions are actually quite dire. There's rife unemployment, substance abuse and alcohol abuse in this area. The service delivery has been rather poor, and the complaints are, there's a multiplicity of complaints. But the uplifting thing for me is that they still have a great deal of confidence in the African National Congress, and they articulated the message that we still see the ANC as the only one that can solve our challenges, because the ANC has improved and changed our lives to be where we are, but we want you to do more and improve our lives more. And that, for me, was the most uplifting part.
Mr. President, in your speech, you did touch on the issue of local government. I think also yesterday, when you were reporting back on how you were received by the your communities, they were quite disappointed by the performance of ANC deployees, particularly local government. And today you spoke about the Electoral Commission. You said as the ANC prepares for the local government elections. Can you unpack what form and what shape will this Electoral Commission take, and what will it do exactly?
Well, before I come to that, let's deal with the issues about local government. Local government is the level of government where our people live. And the other part of it is that that's where investments take place. That's where we're able to grow our economy. So it is a critical aspect of government where we need to actually improve our work. And thus far, local government, not all local governments, but many local government entities have been a disappointment to our people. They've been a disappointment in that, in our case, there's been quite a lot of infighting in our local government that has debilitated the delivery of good services. There's been neglect. But they've also had challenges in relation to having the financial resources. But there's also been corruption. So when I spoke about it, I said, we're now going to embark on an evaluative system, which, by the way, has already started in a number of provinces, where we are at a political level able to evaluate performance and sit down with those people that we've deployed and go into precisely what their mandate was, what they were supposed to do. And where we have found shortcomings, we've been able to act. we've been able to act and remove people and replace them with those that we believe can do the work. And that speaks to accountability. So the spirit and process of accountability is kicking into the ANC processes. And that is, for me, a fundamental change, both at a political level in the ANC as well as at a governance level in terms of government. And all that means that when we choose our councillors or our local government employees, we now need to be a lot more precise. And this is where the choice, the choosing of our local government people comes in. We need to be precise. We just don't need to choose people who are allied to a particular faction. We need to choose people who've got the skills, who've got the wherewithal, who are fit for purpose, who are trusted by the community, who the community wants to work for them. So that's where the changes that we are going to effect and are effecting are going to take place. And I believe that with this, armed with the district development model that we've introduced, we will be able to put our local government on a much better footing. This is systemic change that is taking place both in the ANC as well as in government. And with that, the future is going to be very bright for governance at a local level as well as at higher levels, provincial and otherwise.
Are you looking to introduce this towards next year's local government elections?
Yes.
Do you have enough time, really?
Well, we are working on it, and we are going to have an ANC Lekgotla in the next few days, and we are going to be going through that process to see how best that can be brought into full gear as we move to the local government elections, because we've got to ensure that the people that we deploy are people who will be able to serve the people with distinction when we go into the local government elections.
So basically, ANC candidates will go through a process of rigorous interviews and balance and checks?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Yeah.
President. Now, Mr. President, you spoke about divisions within the ANC. You spoke of faction fighting at local government. I think in your speech as well, earlier this morning, you did mention the issue of how deep these divisions are, and you made comparisons with how things were going back to 1969, around the time of the Morogoro Conference. And someone might say that at that time the ANC had just come from an unfortunate situation where the President General at that time, Luthuli, had died, and then Tambo took over in an acting capacity up to Morogoro, where he was elected. And the entire leadership of the ANC was in prison. If you compare this period to that period, can you just unpack that for me, Mr. President? Is it that bad within the ANC? Because someone might interpret it that way.
Well, you see, we've been recalling what happened at Morogoro, and we've been almost commemorating the 50 years of the Morogoro Conference, and going back to what Morogoro meant to the African National Congress, and saying Morogoro was a turning point for the ANC, because the ANC in exile had reached a level of complete dysfunctionality at both a policy level, operational and organizational level. And something needed to be done. And we are very pleased that the leaders and the membership at that time were able to get together at Morogoro and have an introspective look at what was ailing the ANC and come up with very clear positions. For instance, the strategy and tactics document that came out of that Morogoro conference has defined the new path for the African National Congress right down the decades. And we are still living in great benefit of what they discussed then. They delved into the principles that should underpin what the ANC stands for. Now, having gone through a period where the ANC lost its way, where factionalism was the order of the day, where deviant tendencies got into the ANC, at the 54th conference, we looked very, very closely at ourselves and felt that we needed to embark on a path of renewal. And that renewal process very much mirrors what we went through at Morogoro, to reposition the African National Congress in a way to repackage it so that it can be a trusted leader of society once again, so that the people of South Africa can see that the ANC is a servant leader of the people of South Africa, and it leads the country in every facet of South African life. And this is what we have sought to do. The divisions that we have can be healed by the clear principles that were adopted at Morogoro, including the resolutions that we also adopted at our 54th conference. So we are replete with these wonderful tools that can enhance renewal within the ANC. And that is the process that we are involved in now. We are nowhere near where we want to be. We were given two very clear mandates: to renew the ANC and to unite the ANC. I mean, the third one was to build the economy of our country so that we can improve the lives of our people. But these two overriding ones is precisely what we're working on. Want to renew the ANC, and the process is underway. And there are pockets in the country, in the ANC structures, where this has taken traction. And we want this to take traction in all other structures of the African National Congress, and we are on the way there. And as I said earlier, even last night, we are going to renew the African National Congress, and we are going to unite the ANC. Whether people like it or not, the ANC will emerge in the next while. A renewed organization, fit and proper to lead the people of South Africa, as we are doing, and also a united organization.
Now, Mr. President, we don't have much time. Coming to the issue of Eskom.
Yes.
You stand in front of the nation, you tell us that you have been assured that there will not be load shedding between the 17th of December and the 13th of January, and then boom, there is load shedding. What happens at that moment? Who calls you? Who tells you what? Or who did you call? What happened at that moment when Eskom declared load shedding again?
Well, when we met them on the 9th of December, the management and the board were in situ, they were in place, and they did their calculations, and they also looked at their recovery plan and said, based on our recovery plan, we obviously have to focus on repairs and maintenance, and these are the plants that we are going to repair, and these are the megawatts that we are going to put out, and we are going to be left with so many megawatts, we will be able to generate enough electricity up to the 13th. And they were not able to do that. And there was a risk in that. It was a risk that they did not highlight sufficiently. And this is precisely what Sbu Ngalwa said in his letter of resignation. He said, much as we told you what we told you and gave you the undertaking, there was a risk, but they did not articulate the risk more fully and comprehensively. And when load shedding started before the 13th, they did not immediately say, hey, things are not going as well as they should. We now have to tell you that what we promised you on the 9th of December is not going to be fulfilled. And I think because they're dealing with machines, they're dealing with processes that break and get repaired and function and not function, they probably overshot their own expectations, and they made that promise. But the good thing is that Sbu Ngalwa has taken accountability, and I applaud him for that. And I would that this becomes a behavior that is adopted in our country, the body politic and the body economic of our country, that when someone has faltered, they are able to take accountability and say, I have faltered, I am responsible, and I want to be seen as being accountable for this. So I applaud him for that. And I don't think that takes any shine from him, from his integrity. in fact, he should be applauded for having been man enough to say, I will stand for this, and I haven't done it, and I therefore will depart.
But then Sbu Mabuza led a board. It's the entire board that assured you. Should not the entire board be resigning?
Well, we have said that we are going to be revamping that board, and Sbu Mabuza occupied a unique position. He was the CEO, acting CEO, as well as the chairman. So his position was quite unique, and that is why he feels it much more acutely. As regards the other members of the board, one has already resigned, but we are saying we are going to revamp that board, and we would like space to be given for us to be able to revamp that board so that Eskom does not remain leaderless at this point in time.
As you know, President, obviously the issue of return of load shedding has put pressure with alliance partners like COSATU raising issue of Minister of Public Enterprises Pravin Gordhan saying that he should also be taking responsibility and resigning. And there have been questions about whether you will. In fact, they've called on you to reshuffle the cabinet. Will you be reshuffling your cabinet? And what is your response to the call by COSATU and the Youth League in the Free State?
Well, issues of reshuffling of cabinet or appointment of cabinet are not discussed in the public, on television. They are matters that the President considers and reflects on and also consults on. So I'm not about to start a new sort of type of process at the moment and say this is what we are going to do when it comes to reshuffling. And any appointment in cabinet, any reshuffle, you will get to hear about it if it ever happens, as the normal way we do things. Press conference will be called, but I'm not saying that that's what is going to happen, and we don't deal with reshuffling appointment of cabinet in the public arena.
And the response to COSATU's call?
Well, I've heard COSATU's call. I don't know what the full content of that is, and COSATU will be discussing matters with us as we move ahead. So I prefer to leave it there.
Would you say you have full confidence in the minister?
I prefer that we proceed with matters of rebuilding and repositioning Eskom and move ahead and make sure that Eskom is repositioned. And this is precisely what the minister is working on right now. Day and night, doesn't even sleep, he's just focused on Eskom.
Now, President, before we wrap up, there is always, as we know, perceptions matter in politics. And as these things come up time and again, there's always a perception that perhaps you are not in full control of the ANC. Would you say that you're in full control of the ANC at this point in time?
I'm the president of the African National Congress. And as the leader of the ANC, I work with colleagues. I am not a dictator of the African National Congress. I am the president of the ANC. And decisions of the African National Congress are decisions of a collective. Like, for instance, the message that was released today. It is not the president's message. It is the message of the National Executive Committee of the ANC. And it is a joy to work as part of a collective rather than as a dictator. You derive a lot of joy because whatever finally is put out, either by the president as he charges ahead, has benefited from the input, the thoughts, the views, in agreement or disagreement of a whole number of comrades. And given that we are not the same and we are not wired in the same way, like we were not born by the same mother and father, we bring together the richness of the diversity of experiences, of thought and views, and that diversity ends up enabling even a president to give the leadership. So that is what I have grown knowing throughout my years as a public person and being part of our movement. And I derive a lot of joy of being president of the ANC, working with my comrades, whom I love dearly.
This one, Mr. President, can answer as a yes and no. And do you think if we went to conference tomorrow that you would win?
We don't have a conference. We don't have a conference, so that that question is completely irrelevant. And I'm not also elected by television stations. I'm elected by delegates of the African National Congress.
Mr. President, thank you very much for your time. There you have it, viewers. The President of the ANC, Cyril Ramaphosa, just unpacking some of the issues that are affecting the nation, saying that he enjoys the confidence of his collective and also he doesn't represent himself, but also talking broadly about the issue of Eskom, about the fact that there will be a new board that will be appointed and that they are focused on making sure that they strengthen the Eskom board, but also talking on a much more important issue, which is that of the local government elections, that the ANC talking about coming up with an electoral commission which will filter through its members and make sure that they get the best candidates. Whether that happens or not between now and local government elections will remain to be seen. From us at Kimberley, thank you very much, and it's back to you in Studio Tabo.